Okay, so ayahuasca, night one. So what takes me to the point where I feel like I need to go do ayahuasca in the jungle of Costa Rica? Because I feel like I've done all this work. I've gone through a basically like a winter of hell, of doing the deep work, of looking within myself, of healing, of cleansing, of taking off the masks, of who I know I'm not, who I know I never was. I'm taking off the costumes. I'm doing that deep inner work, that deep inner excavation. That is so much work. It's so tremendous. And I've come out on the other side feeling better than I ever have in all of my life. I'm not quite, the person I used to be, but I'm also not quite the person I want to be still yet. And so come the spring, summer really, again, I start to hear the call of ayahuasca. I start to hear the whispers of her voice. And everybody will tell you, anybody who's a practitioner of ayahuasca will tell you, she calls you. She calls you. You don't go to her, she calls you. And that's exactly what starts to happen. All the synchronicities and all the, this start to line up, and I start to feel the call to her. I hear people talking about it all the time. I mean, it's nonstop. Almost every day I hear ayahuasca this, ayahuasca that. And I think that ayahuasca used to have this kind of like, this reputation of being able to only help people who were like the most wounded on this earth. You know what I mean? The people who had been like really brutally abused and alcoholics, and like it was kind of like I had that reputation for a long time, but of course it's become something that's a bit more, we'll call it mainstream. And so anyway, the real thing is that I'm also feeling incredibly lost. Like I've done all this deep inner work, and it's now like the spring of my life, the spring into summer of my life, and I don't know where the F I belong. Like I don't know what to do. I feel like this is not just like stepping into the unknown, which is like really when you step into yourself. This is not just, walking the pathless path, that they say like I'm not even on a path. I feel like I'm in the middle of a jungle on my own, and I can't move. I don't know where to go. There is no path for me. There is no direction, and I'm just stuck. And I start taking all of these courses. I start speaking to all these coaches about what's next for me, and nobody really can help me. It's really funny. Like nobody really gives me the answers that I'm looking for. I can't really find it in anyone. Nobody can really tell me, and to the point, and I can't make my own choice about anything either. Like if somebody had said to me, hey, we're gonna give you all the money you want to move to wherever you want for 1 full year, it's like wherever you want to go, we'll do it for you. I wouldn't even have known what to choose. I would have been, I don't know where I want to go. I don't know where I want to be. I have no idea. Like I had no idea what to do about anything in my life. Like I don't even know that I knew my favorite color at that point. I'm like, is it my favorite color? Was I just told it was my favorite color? Like I am so wildly off everything. And so I basically hear about this place called Reunion in Costa Rica. And I mention it because in case anybody feels like, they're feeling the call and they might want to go. And so I hear about this. It's this beautiful nonprofit. And I remember when I heard about it, I was like, I have to go. And I remember I did not have the money for this, but I was like, when you have to do something, you have to do it. The time is right. I'm like, I'm doing this. I know I need to do this. And so I just beg, borrow, steal to get there. And I do. I fly to Costa Rica, and it's 1 week. So I'm just gonna give you the breakdown before we get into what happened, because it's 1 week. You arrive on a Sunday, and you do ayahuasca 4 times. So you arrive on Sunday, you do ayahuasca Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday is a break. We do something called the sweat lodge, the Chuyachaka. And then Thursday, Friday, we're back in ayahuasca. Saturday's a break, is a rest day, and then we go back home on Sunday. And it's really beautiful because the first thing happens when we arrive is there's a group of like about 22 of us, which is like smaller than usual, I think. 22 or 24, and there's actually so many people from Toronto as well. And in fact, a lot of the facilitators are either from Toronto or like are Canadian, which is really cool. And I think the founder is Canadian. I think it's actually like, a technically Canadian company, even though, it's a nonprofit. And I get there, and we kind of like have this intro, and then the first thing that they do is they take us to the temple. Like we get a tour, and then they take us to the temple. And of course, by the way, this is paradise. I mean, this is beautiful Costa Rica, right on the beach. It's paradise. It feels like a luxury vacation, except spiritual. Like a luxury, rehab center, but spiritual. So, they take us to the temple. where we're going to be practicing, where we're going to be working with the medicine and taking la dieta, which is what they call it. Also, I just want to say this because the 2 weeks leading up to ayahuasca, like you have to clean your diet up so good that you can't even have cold foods, like even the week before, like nothing cold. Forget about drugs and alcohol, obviously. No salt, like no sugar, no caffeine. It's basically like you're eating very bland vegetables and very clean, lean meats leading up to it. So you're really like in a very detoxed and clean system. Anyway, so they take us to the temple and we all sit in this beautiful semicircle, and they give us a pen and paper and we have to write down what our intentions are for being there, why we're there, why we're in ayahuasca. And I don't know, I don't remember what I wrote down, but I think I must have written something like to know why I'm here, to find my purpose, and to see why I'm here on planet Earth. Something like that, something to that effect. It's been a while, but I can't quite remember. And so they take the papers back from us, and then we have this beautiful dinner. Is incredible, which they cook with completely zero salt, and you cannot tell that there's no salt in any of the food because it's so incredible. Like the chef there was incredible, it was amazing. And one of the first things that happened, and it's so funny how synchronicity works, because one of the first things that happened was one of the facilitators, I can't remember his name, basically had us all come together before a meal and to thank the food and to thank everybody who brought that food to our table, the growers, the pickers, the transporters, the makers, the chefs in the kitchen, like everybody. And it was really a beautiful thing. I'd never done anything like that. It wasn't just prayer, it was being thankful. And we all held our hands over the food, and to thank everybody in the process of making your food is something completely different. And I haven't like lost that practice. I mean, I'm getting better at it. It took me a long time to get there, but it's a practice I still continue to this day, of thanking my food directly, thanking the plants and the animals on my meal, and thanking all those who brought the meal to my plate, or the food to my plate, has been something that I've actually consistently kept up with. So I'm proud of that. But anyway, so we all have this really beautiful meal. We all get to know each other night one, and then we go into it the next day. And so when you do on an ayahuasca day, I think we started off with a beautiful ceremony, like, you know, I don't know, I think maybe it was a sharing circle. I can't remember what we started off with in the morning, but on ayahuasca days, there are no dinners. So they'll give you breakfast, I think lunch, and then for dinner, it's like they'll put out fruit and stuff. There's no official meal because you kind of want to be on a lighter, sort of emptier stomach on a day like that, on an ayahuasca night. So what they actually end up doing is yeah, like I said, is putting out like fruit, basically, that you can kind of, if you want to have something in your system that's not too heavy. And so here's the thing. So we go into ayahuasca night one in the temple. And again, the temple is just this big, beautiful space. It's kind of like a everything's wooden floors, wooden everything, with kind of grass skirts on the top, like a really classic sort of like what you would think of seeing in the jungle, or like Tahiti or something like that. This really beautiful space where everything is screened as well, so you can hear the outside world perfectly. You can hear all of the crickets, you can hear all of the natural wildlife going on. It's all just a beautiful screen all the way around. And what they've done is they set up in a beautiful semicircle on the outer side of the temple. They've set up, everybody gets you know, their own space. So you get a mattress, you get a blanket and a pillow, you get a bolster as well, if I'm not mistaken. You get a bolster, and you get this really cool chair thing that I really love. It's kind of like, think of a folding chair without legs. It's kind of like that. Then you get a basket to put all your things in you might need, and then you get a bucket for throwing up and some toilet paper to help wipe yourself if you need that. And they tell us every single day every night of ayahuasca, to bring a change of clothes, just in case, you know, we get beyond ourselves. We get to a point of no return for some reason. And so they set up these beautiful mattresses for us in a semicircle all the way around. And you have the shaman at the very front, and you have four practitioners on each side. Like you have 4 people facilitating and helping. And so 2 guys and 2 girls. And then there's one more at the door. And at the door, you have somebody who's just there to help us, like go to the bathroom if we need, or anything like that. So anyway, so there's this moment, when you're sitting in a semicircle, like next to people, and we're all kind of like excited, like we're gonna do ayahuasca, we're all gonna do ayahuasca. But then there's this moment when things start to get real, because the shaman opens the ayahuasca ceremony in this beautiful way. I think he's speaking Quechua, and he's from Peru, the shaman that we worked with, and he's speaking Quechua to open the ceremony, as well as Spanish. And as you're sitting there, you're sort of excited, but then they dim the lights, things start to get a bit serious, and you cannot help but have this moment of like, what the hell have I done? What the hell am I doing here? And it's so funny because there was this other girl, like the next day we were talking about it, and she felt the same way. I think we all must have at some point where she felt the same way. She kind of said she was like, she's from Texas. She grew up like a super, like very strict evangelical church, kind of like me, but like I'm sure Texas style, which is like a whole other thing. And when she left the church and whatever, she had her own experiences. But the point is that she was having this moment where she was sitting there as well and going, oh my God, I have messed up so bad. I've come to see the witch doctor. Like, where have I lost my way? I'm literally, I went to see the witch doctor. This is what my life is. I went to see the witch doctor. Oh my God, what the hell? And you have this moment of like, what the fuck am I doing here? I've made a tremendous mistake. Like, I've made a mistake here. But anyway, you move on. The lights get dim. And the thing is when the shaman has, I would say concocted the ayahuasca drink. It's a drink that we drink, and is opening the ceremony for us. In night one, we all are taking the exact same amount. There's this beautiful little shot glass that they pour it into, and we all are instructed. Everybody has to take the same amount. You can't choose how much you want to take, but that changes in night 2 and night 3. And so we're all sitting in the semicircle, and he opens the ceremony, and then he calls each one of us up one by one. And the way it goes is we each get called up one by one. We take the medicine, and then they basically close the lights out and begin the ceremony. So because it takes so long for it to kick into our stomach, so it's about an hour, basically 40 minutes to an hour. And I guess the shaman decides like when that time is like correct for us. But just to tell you, so it actually tasted, I wouldn't say it tasted like medicine, but it tasted a bit like a pruny cacao drink. That's all I can think of. Like chocolate for sure, like cacao for sure, and prunes. Like, it wasn't the worst thing you've ever tasted, but definitely not the best. Okay, so then we're all sitting at the edge of our beds, and we each get called up to take the medicine, to start la dieta, which is what it's called. And then we go back to our our mattresses or our seats, and the shaman basically opens the ceremony, and then they shut all the lights off. I mean, there are no lights on. It's completely dark, and you're just meant to kind of lie there and wait for her to make her introductions. And that's what happened. So at one point, maybe, but again, in like 40 minutes to an hour or so, the shaman begins by gently beating a drum. And what you begin to feel, and certainly this is my experience, and I'm sure most people's experience, is you begin to feel the medicine awakening within you. Like, you can feel that drum, and it's like that drum is what awakens the medicine. And it's very gentle and soft to begin with, which eventually gets louder, and it gets to the point where you really feel the medicine alive within you. And for me, everybody's experience with ayahuasca is so different. Everybody's experience with ayahuasca is so unique to them. But with me, what started with me, my experience started off with realizing that I am the snake. And by the way, my experience in ayahuasca is both in English and in Spanish, right? It's like, it's both, right? I'm bilingual. It's both English and Spanish. Like, it's Spanglish all the way through. It's just, sometimes it's exclusively in Spanish, and then it moves to English here and there, but it is mostly in Spanish, I want to say. And so the first thing that happens is I see myself as a snake coming from the stars and descending down to earth. And I'm like, soy la culebra. I am the snake. That's how it starts. I am the snake. And I'm so happy and excited to be the snake. I'm like, ooh, I'm the snake. I'm so excited. And there's a remembering that starts to happen. There's this remembering of having been on earth before and having descended down as the snake before. And it's this like super, super awesome, like wonderful experience of like slithering through earth, slithering across earth. And I slither to I don't want to say it's my own drum, but it's to a rhythm. It's kind of like this dun 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 dun. Soy la culebra, like I am the snake, I am the snake, and I'm just so happy to be a snake. I'm like boop 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 boop. I'm just like happy to be home in a sense. I'm happy to return to this place. Like maybe it's not home, but I'm happy to return here, and it feels like home. And I basically slither across the earth. I do my slithering and I'm in the jungle and I'm so happy to be in the jungle. I'm like, oof, this feels so good. It feels so right. It feels so good to be back here. I'm like, this is where I belong. Like, I am the snake. I am the snake. Soy la culebra. Soy la culebra. And what begins to happen is I see myself in the jungle and it's very, I come to a place like of rest, like a rest stop in a sense, where there's all these crickets and little froggies and all these things. It's kind of like, you know, in BBC, when you watch like BBC like Planet Earth, like with David Attenborough, and everything is like very ultraviolet. Like that's how I see things. Like in that ultraviolet where they use that special ultraviolet camera, that's how everything is for me. That's how I see everything. I am the snake and I'm like dun 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 dun, and I go to this resting stop where I'm sort of like under the earth a little bit looking out, and I see all the little froggies in like that ultraviolet. You know, sometimes they're in those like big beautiful like leaves, like plants that you can see their little feet through and stuff, and I can see other like little grillos, like little grasshoppers and like all kinds of other, all manner of creature, just happy to be themselves. Like we're all part of this beautiful earth in this incredible way, and I feel so connected to Mother Earth, and I feel like this is my home again. I'm like so happy to be here. And one of the things that I realized as I descend down, right, because I've descended down from the stars to earth as the snake, is that I remember I start to have these memories. I start to have this memory of returning to earth. It's a returning to earth, of a choosing to come to earth, and a choosing to be a woman, and a choosing to be a girl. And I am so excited to be a girl and to be a woman on earth. There's nothing better. I feel like I have won the lottery. Like to be a girl on planet earth is everything. And I'm so excited. Like I can't explain. I'm like, woo! Like I'm so happy to come back to earth. I'm so happy to return. I'm so happy to incarnate here, and I'm so happy to be a woman and to be a girl. Like I chose to be a woman and I chose to be a girl, and it is winning the lottery. It's like there's nothing better than being a woman. Like there's nothing better than being a girl on planet earth. I'm so happy and I'm so excited. And it's funny because one of the things I'm most excited for, in actuality, of all the things to be excited for, to be here on planet earth, one of the things I'm most excited for is for music and dance, which I think tells you something. Like to be in a human body, to be incarnate now at this time, and to be most excited for music and dance. I couldn't wait. It's so funny because I brought my journal here, the one I had at the time, just to remember all the things. And I think I just kind of have like bullet notes here, but you know, because unfortunately I can't share everything that happened in that ceremony in night one, ceremony one of ayahuasca, just because there are some very deep and profound questions that I asked the medicine, that I asked Mother Ayahuasca about my family, and certain things, certain goings on in my family that I'm not, you know, are not mine to share necessarily, certain secrets in my family that aren't mine to share. But what I can and will share is that she showed me in the most beautiful way possible. Like I wish I could share, because what I needed to see, she showed me in the most beautiful, like luminescent, like way possible. And it was so incredible and so wonderful. It was, I mean, you know, maybe one day that's gonna be possible to actually share like a night one of ayahuasca, what really like truly happened all the way through with all the details. But in the meantime, you know, I wanna keep like protect people's privacy. And what she showed me was really incredible, and the way she showed it to me, I'll never forget. It's everything. It's everything for me. But one of the things I will say is that you know I came down with gifts, and one of the gifts I came down with was la calma, right? Calm. I came down with a sense of calm, and we all come down with gifts. We all incarnate. We all choose little gifts that we come down with. And one of the things that I truly remember was soy la calma. I am the calm. I am calm. And it's true. I have always been in my family that person who, you know, is always remedying situations between people. Like I've always been that person in between things that is like brings a calm to the situation. It always brings a level-headedness to the situation. And you know, that's one of the many aspects that I remember. Some of the other things, again, I can't go into too much detail over, but what I will say is I did ask some questions about my personal life, like will I have a family here, will I be doing these certain things? And it was so funny because, you know, what she kind of showed me is, first of all, number one, it was like, that's not the most relevant part of coming to Earth. Like, it's interesting that she would say that to me. Like, it's not the most relevant part of coming to Earth. And, you know, one of the things I had asked about, and this one I will share because it's in conjunction with some of the things I can't talk about, but it was about men basically, and what Mother Ayahuasca shared with me, and what I think is also part of my own consciousness, that unknowing for my own consciousness, but certainly that comes from her and her own mission to heal about men, is that the men are a bit ill. I don't know how else to put it, but the men are ill. Like the men are kind of sick, and the way I kind of see it is that the men are kind of sick with fear and with sex and with ego and with rage. Like the men, there's something in the men that is not quite right. They're a bit off. Like they and I've been feeling like this for the last little while, which is I think is so interesting that I'm sharing this aspect of Ayahuasca Night 1 with you, is that I feel like the men have been operating almost as like half human for a long time, like very operating from a very low vibrational center and from like a very low sacral center, which, you know, your sacral chakra is like, we all have one. It's not a lower vibration. And ideally you're in alignment with all your chakras, right? Like you're ideally raising up that level within yourself, but that the men operate from this very low center, and that's why they're a danger to women, and that men are a danger to women. I mean, that's not a joke. That's not inaccurate to say. And in fact, I would argue maybe that they're not more dangerous now than ever. I don't know this is statistics on that, but that there is something about being alone with men that you are not safe as a woman here. And women are so sacred. Like we are so sacred. We are everything to this earth. Like this, women are really the spine and the backbone of this planet in so many ways, and we are cast aside. Our bodies are cast aside, are treated like garbage. Women and girls are treated like garbage across this planet. They leave our bodies, they literally will rape and kill us and leave our bodies on the sides of the road. And that the men are sick. And you know, I'm not sharing this to get too negative. I don't want to, you know, because I want to elaborate on topics like this in my videos anyway, but there is something that is off about the men and that they need healing. And I've felt this way for a really long time, that I've wanted to work in the prison system with men. I don't know why. I don't know what I'm going to do there. I have no idea. But I felt that way for so long, that it's not a system that rehabilitates men. And in fact, it can make them worse and it causes more harm, or women in general, of course. It's not a system that rehabilitates, and in fact, makes people worse. And I think part of some of the work I want to be doing in the future is working with the plant medicines and is working with psychedelics at some point in my life to help bring about the healing that people need. Because, you know, we're being shown by evidence across the world, all over the world, everywhere, scientifically and otherwise, that, you know, people have been in therapy for years and years, have not come to great solutions in their life, but working with psychedelics has brought them healing in such quick ways, because you really are, and I'm someone who's worked with them, you know, through my, like over the last couple of years, you really are met with yourself. You're met with a side of yourself that you're not always willing to look at. And that's what the medicines do for you. That's what Mother Ayahuasca does for you. And that's what the mushrooms do for you. And one thing I just want to say about the difference between the two is that somebody described it like this: the mushrooms are basically like little kids. Like they're kind of like they're the ones that kind of make you giggle, and they're like, they'll show you things that like, it's a very cute, very sweet, very fun energy. Whereas my Mother Ayahuasca is more like a grandmother, and she loves you unconditionally. She's there for you. She's got your back, but you know, don't get out of line, because she'll put you in your place. She'll give you a little slap if you need it, and that's exactly what her energy is like. She's exactly like that. And so anyway, so to go back into that, there was a lot of there's a sort of heaviness, but at the same time, because it is very intense, but at the same time, my energy felt incredibly feminine and incredibly supportive. Like I felt completely supported by Mother Ayahuasca and by my guides, and by all those that were in that space with me, the shaman and the facilitators, and it was a really, really beautiful, sort of incredibly deep deep, profound experience where I actually think I got caught up in a loop here and there. That can happen to you when you start looping, and where I would, start to cry and whatever, and get, go to not a darker place, but a very deep, deep place, and then feel light again, and then feel love, and then kind of go back and like sort of loop. And I think I did that almost all night long until like the morning. And at one point, so we go from like 8 to basically like midnight. I forgot to mention that. So the ceremony opens, I think, around 8 o'clock. And I think we go to around midnight, like we're still in process. And around midnight is when the shaman closes the ceremony. So, they light the candles. It's 2 little candles. They don't they don't ever put the big lights back on, but they light 2 little candles, which will illuminate that huge temple. I don't know, it's pretty wild what 2 little candles can do. But basically, once the shaman has closed the ceremony, you're kind of free to leave. And you can hear, the other thing I want to mention for anybody who hasn't done it before as well, is you're in the semicircle of mattresses around you, and other people are in their process. Other people are in their process doing their thing. And I forgot to mention that they play music all the way through. That's like almost 4 hours or maybe 3 hours or whatever. If we start the ceremony at 8 o'clock, it takes about an hour for the medicine to kick in. Like they start playing around 9 o'clock, and that's 3 hours of playing music, the different facilitators, the shaman, and all 4 the other 4 facilitators, and they all sing and play their own instruments throughout the entire night, and it is the most beautiful thing on earth. You cannot imagine. And they all sing beautifully and they all perform beautifully, but there's one girl, I'll just say her name, like Mariana, whose voice is so incredibly beautiful. I remember at one point looking up at her, like kind of getting up off my mattress and like looking up, and we all were given or had to bring our own headlamps and be put on the red setting, because it's the lowest light that you can still see, but it's not shocking, And so she was playing her guitar and looking down at her music, at her notes, at her music, and singing. And because you're in this process, she looked so beautiful. She looked radiant. So you have this thing and she's like covered in this beautiful red light, and she looks like a freaking moon goddess alien. I can't explain it, but she's so beautiful. And the music they play is so incredible. And you can basically hear other people laughing, crying, not screaming, but being loud, or some people moaning and groaning. Like you're just like in process with everybody. So every once in a while you get up and look, and you can tell some people are in their own thing. They're doing their own thing. They're in their own space. Like they're maneuvering around, but you're not really arsed about them. You're not worried about them. It's just you and you. Like it's just you, and you kind of like go back. And the thing about the medicine is that she moves in you in a very real way. Like she moves your body. Like your body moves very involuntarily. She's doing all the moving for you, and you're just kind of there allowing her to work through you and allowing her to heal you, or allowing her to show you what you need to see. And the thing is again, I haven't gone into too much detail about night 1 because it really was incredible. But again, I can't go that far into detail. But I've heard of other people's stories where, I have a friend who basically was telling me the first time he did ayahuasca, he had basically he had basically like been given a really bad like diagnosis or disease. I can't remember what he had. I mean, let's just pretend it's like a stage 4 something. I don't know. It was pretty bad though. And what Mother Ayahuasca showed him that night is that she took him into his body, I think almost like on a boat, and he was like literally in a boat, like paddling through his like bloodstream, and she was showing him where the disease was and like how to cure it, if I'm not mistaken. Like she was showing him exactly where the disease was in his body, and he was like paddling in his own bloodstream. And that's how powerful this medicine is, and that's how beautiful this medicine is. And I know I want to be a practitioner of medicines at some point, of plant medicines at some point in my life. I don't know when or how that's going to happen. I trust the process. But they really are here to heal us, and they're really here to help us, and they're really here to help us navigate this life, and they can help awaken us to much deeper dimensions of consciousness that we might not be aware of. And so maybe this is your sign to either do ayahuasca, or maybe it's your sign not to do ayahuasca, whatever you feel you're being called to. But what I will say is that she does call you. That's something I will never ever deny anybody. If you feel the call to ayahuasca, it's not for nothing. If you're feeling called to it, it's because she's calling you. And it's really important to listen to that call. And I think that things work out in your favor too when you do those things, when you follow and trust that intuition. You really, really feel, you really, really, how can I say, what else can I put it? You know what's right. You know what feels right for you. So this may be your call to do ayahuasca. This may not be your call to do ayahuasca, but But that's basically what happened. And the last thing I'll kind of close with, which was like really awesome, was that we, at one point when it really ended and people were kind of getting up and doing things, I was so comfy and like comfortable in my bed, I didn't want to get up and leave. But one thing happened where I knew I wanted to see the moon. Like, I knew I had to see the moon. I was like, I gotta go see the moon, because I felt so tethered to this beautiful earth. I saw myself descend from the stars, from the moon down to earth. I was like, baby, I gotta go see the moon. And so it's so funny, because when I got up to walk, I couldn't walk. Like, I kind of fell back down really quick because there's so much medicine in your system. But in my mind, I was like, well, of course, I'm a snake. Snakes can't walk. So I remember I got up and kind of like fell and fumbled, and I was like, okay, it's okay. I'm a snake, but I can learn how to walk on human feet. It was like that. It was literally like that. And so I kind of make my way out to outside, and everybody's kind of also like either chatting or like walking out of the temple as well. And I remember looking up and I couldn't see the moon from where I was at, and it's possible it was a new moon, so maybe that's why, but I couldn't see the moon, but I could see, I mean, I saw the stars and they were impeccable. I mean, it was like a blanket of diamonds in the sky. It was so beautiful. And I went to everybody who was like in their own process was like, guys, look up. And everybody looks up and they're like, wow, like, it's like, whoa, they're so beautiful. You forget how beautiful this planet is and how gorgeous. And I think we all just like, ignored it for a bit, and then we all looked up and we're like, this is incredible, this place is incredible. And I swear I felt like I was standing there with my feet in the grass and looking up, and I swear I could feel the tilt of Earth's axis and us spinning with Earth. Like, I can't explain it. Or with the moon, with the cosmos, like I could feel, you know how they show that to you again in like Planet Earth or like other like Earth whatever environmental videos and things like that, like where I felt like we were tipped and just spinning, and I could see the stars spinning with me. Like, I was like, wow. Anyway, it was really, really cool. So so that's night one of ayahuasca. There were tremendous, really profound moments in there that, again, maybe another time I can go deeper and further into, but I had asked really profound questions to her, and she was able to answer them in an incredible way. Like, it's wild what she knows. It's wild what the medicine knows. It was wild the intelligence that these plants have, and the way that they loan themselves to us, the way that they become available to us to teach us and to show us what we need to know and what we need to see. So again, I'll leave it there. If you're feeling the call to ayahuasca, maybe this is your sign to do it, or maybe this is your sign not to. Maybe you feel like you're confident in your knowing of what's next for you. But again, that's just night one of ayahuasca. And and then just quickly, the very next day we did we had a sharing circle. So that's what happens the next morning. There's breakfast. There's movement first thing. There's like a yoga style movement. Then we go into breakfast. And then we have a sharing circle where everybody can talk about what their experience was. And I mentioned in that sharing circle that I remember I felt like, oh, I thought I was more connected to the stars. Like, I thought I was more extraterrestrial. I mean, I know that sounds weird, but that's what I thought. But anyway, I saw myself come down as a snake to earth, and I shared that I remember choosing to come to earth as a woman. That I remember choosing to come here for a reason, that I had a purpose here. I don't know if I shared that part, but maybe that was to be a woman here on earth. Like, I chose it, and I remember. It's a memory. I remember. And everybody shared their own experiences of what happened with them in night one of ayahuasca. And it was really, really incredible. So that's night one. I'll be doing a video on night two fairly soon. Nights 3 and 4. Night 3 is the big one. Night 3 is when things get real, and so on and so forth. So feel free to subscribe and follow along, and to check me out on Instagram and TikTok at the same name, La Vida Flanders, and just follow along with the beautiful journey that is spiritual awakening.